Okay, let's continue with our blockchain data structure. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to place a method on our blockchain. And this method will be called create new block, and hence its name, it will create a new block for us. Cool. So we will do this by writing prototype dot create new block equals a function. Cool. So we have this create new block function or method on our blockchain prototype object. And this create new block method will take in three parameters. It will take in a nonce, it will take in a previous block hash, and it will take in a hash. Cool. And all of these parameters we are going to dive in deeper in future videos. So don't worry if you're not familiar with what a nonce is or what the previous block hash is. We're going to explain upon these a little bit more in the future. So the first thing that we want to do inside of our create new block method is create a new block object. So we will say const, if I can spell it right here, const new block equals an object. And this is going to be a block in our chain, inside of our blockchain. So all of the data that we need is going to be stored inside of this block. This is a pretty important part of our blockchain. So on our block, we're going to have an index property. And this will be basically the block number. It will describe what number block this is in our chain. Is it the first block, the second block, the third block, so on. So our index property will be equal to this dot chain, which is this property right here, this dot chain dot length plus 1. Great. Our next property is going to be a timestamp, because we want to know when this block was created. And for our timestamp, we're simply going to do date.now, which will give us a timestamp. Our next property will be the transactions. And the transactions will be equal to this.new transactions. So basically, when we create a new block, we are going to want to put all of the new transactions or all of the pending transactions that have just been created. We are going to want to put those into this new block so that they're inside of our blockchain and so that they can never be changed. So inside of this new block, we are going to say all of the transactions in this block should be the new transactions that are waiting to be placed into a block. The next property that we are going to have on our block is a nonce. And this is simply going to be equal to the nonce property that we have passed in, or excuse me, the nonce parameter that we have passed into our function right here. So what is a nonce? Basically, a nonce comes from a proof of work. And a nonce, in our case, is simply just a number. Could be any number. Could be 2, 10, 10,000, 100,000. It doesn't really matter. But this nonce is pretty much a proof that we created this new block in a legitimate way by using a proof of work method. So all of this kind of seems a little bit confusing right now, and that's okay. Once we build out more of our blockchain data structure, it will be much more easy to understand how everything kind of plays together and works together to create a functional blockchain. So if you don't understand what a nonce is right now, don't worry about it. We're going to be dealing a lot with this property in future videos, and it will become more clear as we move on. Our next property is going to be a hash. And this hash is simply going to be equal to the hash that we pass into our function up here, or into our create new block method up here. And basically, this hash will be the data from our new block. So basically what's going to happen is we are going to pass our transactions or our new transactions into a hashing function. Basically what that means is all of our transactions are going to be basically compressed into a single string of code, a single string. And that is what will be our hash. Now, this too might be a little bit confusing, but as we move forward, we are going to build out a hashing method, and we are going to test it and explore it a little bit, and you should become much more familiar with how this hash actually works and what its purpose is. So if you aren't quite clear on what its purpose is right now or where we get it from, don't worry. We're going to explore it a lot more throughout this course. And finally, our last property on our new block will be our previous block hash, which will simply be equal to the previous block hash that we have passed into our method up here. And this is very similar to our hash, except our hash right here, this is the data from our current block hashed into a string. And this previous block hash right here is the data from our previous block, or the previous block to this one, hashed into a string. So they're both hashes. This is the hash of the current block, and this is the hash of the previous block. And we are going to explore where these come from in future videos. Great, so this is it. This is a new block for us. This is what every block in our blockchain will look like. So continuing with our create new block method, the next thing that we want to do is set this.new transactions equal to an empty array. And we do this because once we create our new block, we are putting all of the new transactions into this block. So we want to clear out this entire new transactions array so we can start over for the next block. Then we simply want to do this.chain.push our new block. This basically simply takes this new block that we have created and pushes it into our chain and adds it to our chain. And finally, from this method, we are going to return our new block. And that is it. That is our create new block method. So basically what our new create new block method does on a high level is it creates a new block. And inside of this block, we have our transactions, the new transactions that have been created since our last block was mined. And after we create a new block, we clear out the new transactions, we push the new block into our chain, and we simply return our new block from this method. Great. In the next video, we will test this create new block method to make sure that it works correctly. See you there.